Before we dive into cars today, I want to take a moment to talk about your face. You need to shave, and we're here to help. We've teamed up with Dollar Shave Club because they've got some kick-ass products that'll give your face an aerodynamic upgrade. First up is the 4X razor. It's a high-quality razor handle that comes with 4 blades each month, and it's fucking great. Don't believe me? See what I mean? $6 per month will put this Dollar Shave goodness right in your mailbox. Are you cheaper than a cheap bastard? Well, maybe you're not so hairy and you can opt for the not so hairy plan. Brilliantly named. This changes from every month to every other month and saves you money. Want to ball out? Step up to the executive razor blade. Instead of 4 blades on the end of your razor, you get 2 more, that's 6. 2 more equals 2 more shaving better. I don't know, I'm not a goddamn face scientist. Looking to get in on the action? Go to dollarshaveclub.com/Hooniverse. This logo right here, it should pop up neatly, hopefully. Go there, start shaving time, shaving money, and shaving your face. That's the whole, it's just shaving pun. Shave your face, whatever. Go there, do your thing, dollarshaveclub.com/Hooniverse. Enough about that, let's get on to some cars. It's easy to discern beauty when you happen to be in British Columbia, especially when you venture away from Vancouver and find yourself in Whistler. From the lush greenery of the trees to the snow-covered peaks in the distance, there's something wonderful to look at, no matter where you look. There's also something polarizing going on at the moment, because I'm in town to sample the latest from Lexus. It's a compact crossover called the NX. Some of you may hate it, while others might see some modern appeal in its lines. At the core though, one of the things I care about most is how it drives. First up, let's take a look at the NX 300H. That H stands for hybrid, but the 300 doesn't mean 300 horsepower, unfortunately. Instead, we're dealing with a 2.5-liter inline 4-cylinder engine that teams up with 3 motor generators to produce a total system power of 194 horsepower. Since this is a 4,000-pound vehicle, you can expect the 300H to be the opposite of an ISF when it leaves the line. In fact, the 0 to 60 run will take you about 9.1 seconds according to Lexus. Still, those who opt for the NX 300H aren't signing up for powerful performance. Instead, they desire those precious MPGs. The all-wheel drive version will clear 30 miles per gallon in both city and on the highway, while the front driver will eke out an impressive 35 miles per gallon around town. Not bad for something that weighs 2 tons. It's all standard Lexus fare inside, which means the ride is comfortable, the seats are good, and the amenities work well for the price point. Still, it's not terribly exciting, although it's certainly more interesting than the RX, which sits above it. The 200T is where things start to look up. Under the hood sits a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, which pushes out 235 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. Instead of a CVT, which is what the 300H gets, this 200T works with a 6-speed automatic. The turbo is a twin-scroll unit and it's been designed and built in-house. It sidles up to a unique 4x2 exhaust manifold, which is designed to stop the exhaust pulses from stacking up on top of each other and therefore keeping the throttle response more solid. Additionally, there's an air-to-liquid intercooler keeping things chill, and it's a separate system from the cooling supplied to the engine. It's almost as if there's some enthusiast love planted under the skin of this one. Still, there's one more member of the NX family left, and this one wears his enthusiasm right on the outside. So we showed you the hybrid, and now I figure it's time to jump to the fun one. This is the F-Sport. This is the 2015 Lexus NX 200T F-Sport. They don't call it the 200T F-Sport, even though that's what it is. They just call it the Lexus NX F-Sport. And it's easily distinguishable from the rest of the NX family. You know, you've got more aggressive touches up front. You've got the crazy Predator grille, which I think works here. Here's the deal with the styling. I like when automakers push boundaries a little bit as far as design goes. Not everybody does that anymore.
Lexus is trying that with their current stable of vehicles, and this is the craziest expression of their current design language. So it's fun to see them push boundaries. The thing about that, when someone does that, is that you either love it or you hate it. There seems to be no middle ground. I really like this. I know that some of you are gonna hate it. Neither of us are wrong. It's just that I'm righter. So there's that. This is one controversial area though, the blacked out fender flares. Why they did that is to minimize the length and the girth of the body, and it does help shut the sheet metal down a little bit. So there is an explanation for it. That's gonna be another love it or hate it touch, but I'll let you decide on that one later. This car does wear 18-inch wheels. There's 2 versions available for the F Sport, and then there's a whole host of technical goodies going on underneath that's helped this one stand apart from the rest of the NXs that are available. So this is the real reason we're excited to be up here in beautiful British Columbia. You can get the standard 200T. This is just like that in terms of the engine and the 6-speed automatic gearbox. However, it has some upgrades. It has different gear ratio on the final drive. It has a more aggressive exterior. It has bigger standard wheels. It also has a great interior that is deservedly giving this car the F Sport name. You've got this wonderful steering wheel. You've got the really cool pedals. But all in all, this interior is pretty driver focused, even in the non-F Sport version. They did a really good job here of making this feel sporty, and that's something that Lexus is working hard to get done. Akio Toyoda said he wanted to inject more sport into the Toyota and Lexus families, and it's clear that Lexus is taking that seriously. The way the GS 350 drives on a track is a blast. The IS is fun to drive. Even the LS 460 can be fun if you drive it appropriately by turning off traction control and just ruining rear tires, which I've done and I recommend it. It's fun. But here in this car, they're making a crossover, which isn't supposed to be a fun vehicle, and generally they aren't, with a few exceptions, but this one is fun. The steering is nice and tight, and it just feels well put together. It has this dumb thing over here though, which lets you adjust the sound coming into the cabin of the engine, the transmission, and the exhaust note. It is noticeable that it does something. I just wish they didn't have a need for it. Just give us the louder sound off the bat. They do it through a speaker that's not part of the audio system, but through a unique speaker that's just for that active sound control system. So it certainly helps for a crossover to have sporty looks and then back it up with sporty driving dynamics. This is a lovely Canadian road near Whistler, and it's pretty empty at the moment, which is why I'm doing, I'm not gonna say. Hopefully you can't pick it up on the GoPro video. The steering response is communicative. You can put it into a sport driving mode on this drive select knob, which I've done, and that tells the electronic power steering that you want to have some fun. And that's exactly what I want to do. The throttle response is nice and crisp. The brakes feel great, which is confidence inspiring in a 4,000-pound vehicle. That was a really cool discovery we just passed, by the way. So you can enter the twisties and enjoy yourself. And that's key for finding a home amongst enthusiasts that need something fancy to take to work and impress their friends. Let's take this sweeper, dial in some steering, come up on this bridge. I'm narrating like you give a crap about the actual road, but them's the brakes. And I'm hoping you can pick up some of that noise that the ASC system is filtering through the cabin through a dedicated speaker, because it sounds pretty good. The Lexus engineers pulled off some tricks when it came to tuning the suspension of this vehicle. They used a dampener system in between the front and rear suspension. It's an oil-filled, almost like a sway bar that adjusts the tuning and allows the engineers to fine-tune exactly what's going on with the chassis of this vehicle. So the F Sport version is tuned differently from the hybrid and the standard 200T, which are tuned pretty much identically, I believe. There's a few other neat things though for the driver. Here in the center cluster, I'm not sure if you can see it on that camera, but there's actually a G meter. It does left, right, so lateral Gs, and then it also does front and rear, and then braking and acceleration. It's kind of a neat little touch, so you can see how good you are doing on one of your favorite roads, because you can hold the button and reset it and give it another go. And really spread out the spread, so to say, of the G display. There's also additionally a boost gauge. It will go on the positive side of boost between 7.5 up to 15 PSI. So that little twin scroll turbo can get a workout like that if you put your foot into it. I think Lexus did a pretty good job with this cockpit. It does feel driver focused, it does feel sporty, and it's such a healthy change for an enthusiast when you compare it to the likes of the Lexus RX. That car's boring, and I don't like driving it. This though, I can get behind. They've replaced that standard Lexus mouse with a intuitive touchpad down here that you can do almost iPad-like controls with pinch to zoom on the maps. Now some people might think that looks tacked on, but I don't mind the placement, and in fact, where it sits, it's in a perfect line of sight. So it's easy to quickly look down and glance and see the nav or the radio and stuff like that. Speaking of this car, since it's fitted with nav, it also gets a 10-speaker audio system. The standard one is 8. They both sound fantastic. Lexus did a great job with these seats as well. They're wonderfully bolstered. In fact, on the F Sport model, they actually used injection molding to get them just right. So when you're sitting in them, and you're not being tossed around. The driving position is a little high because it's a crossover, but because the seats are sunken down a little bit, you do get to sit a little bit lower. It's a good mix of getting the visibility of the road, but also retaining that sporty driving sensation.